100 grams of protein is a lot. It's probably close to double what you're currently eating. But crazy enough, just by eating more protein, you can actually burn more fat, maintain your results a lot easier, feel a lot less hungry, and be more healthy in the process. So today I'm diving into eating 100 grams of protein per day and if it actually works. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance, and today's video is sponsored by Kettle and Fire. More on them in a bit. Okay, so there are a few studied science-backed reasons why protein is just ridiculously great at helping to achieve a weight loss goal. The first is that it's more satiating. Protein helps to raise our satiety hormone, peptide YY, as well as CCK. These hormones literally tell our brain we're full, we're satisfied, and we don't need to keep eating. So via the same tools that help to prevent hunger, it also helps to prevent sugar cravings and starch cravings. In fact, I see this all the time with my clients. If you have a sugar tooth, you likely are under consuming on protein. The third is it prevents muscle loss. And muscle is our main driver of our metabolism, if it's going to be slow or fast. So by eating a good amount of protein, it helps to keep muscle and therefore keep your metabolism healthy. Which means that number 4, you're going to lose more weight as fat. Because you're not going to lose as much muscle, your body actually can then prioritize that weight coming from fat. All of that makes it so number 5, it's so much easier to maintain your results. You're not hungry, you're not craving ultra-processed foods, and your metabolism is still high. That makes maintenance really easy. It also effectively eliminates the need to count calories. But when you lose weight with typical calorie restriction where you're not paying attention to the amount of protein, therefore you're probably under eating it, it's incredibly unsustainable. And that's because number 1, it results in pretty significant muscle loss. Eating more protein helps protect against muscle loss. But when you eat less protein, this can actually promote muscle loss. In fact, it's pretty common to have anywhere between 20 to 25% of your weight loss with typical calorie restriction diets come from muscle, which is a really big problem because of number 2, it slows your metabolism. And it can be pretty significant. This means that even though you've lost weight, you've also lost muscle, and therefore your metabolism is drastically dropping. That's why a lot of people experience these weight loss plateaus where they have to break through it by just simply eating less or exercising more. And then the cycle will continue where you'll lose weight for a bit, hit a plateau, and then have to eat even less, which all of that's already not great. But then number 3 makes it worse, which is increased hunger hormones. The hunger hormone ghrelin specifically tends to raise after calorie restrictive dietary protocols. This means that you're now even more hungry and require even less food, which makes that weight regain just inevitable. And because of that increased hunger hormone, it also causes number 4, which is increased cravings, specifically cravings for sugary, starchy foods that aren't very satiating, which all that means number 5, less fat loss. You might lose the same amount of weight, but the proportion of fat is going to be smaller. That's because you also are losing muscle too. And scary enough, losing muscle has some really significant health consequences. The first being increased insulin resistance. Less muscle actually means we have lower ability to absorb sugar, so there's more in our blood supply. This means more insulin has to be pumped out, which eventually means that you're going to have more insulin resistance, which could increase your risk of type 2 diabetes. In fact, there's even association studies showing that when you have more muscle, you actually have a lower risk of insulin resistance. It also can cause number 2, which is an increased risk of osteoporosis. This is when your bones are really brittle and weak, and this is just the downfall for a lot of elderly. When our bones are really brittle and weak, we're just one fall away from breaking a hip. That could just be debilitating for long-term health consequences and ability to take care of yourself. And with number 3, it can actually make your fat to muscle ratio worse, which our fat to muscle ratio measures how much fat we have compared to our muscle mass. And studies have found that when we have a higher fat to muscle ratio, it really increases our risk of cardiovascular disease. Literally the exact opposite is true when we eat more protein. Because it helps to maintain muscle mass, it can also therefore help to improve our insulin resistance and possibly even decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes. It's an amazing tool for helping to decrease the risk of osteoporosis, and it can help to improve our fat to muscle ratio, which therefore can help to improve our cardiovascular health. And as an overall added bonus, having more muscle has been found to help reduce our risk of dementia or Alzheimer's. What's even more wild is that scientists have studied the healthiest foods in the world, and nearly every single one of them are those that are really high in protein, specifically animal-based proteins like lamb, beef, milk, and eggs. These are foods that are going to be the most rich in really important nutrients like choline, vitamin A, and iron. So all this means that you can actually promote both health and weight loss benefits when you eat the proper amount of protein. But what about specifically 100 grams per day? The answer is that it kind of depends. But before we get into that, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Kettle and Fire. Kettle and Fire is an amazing bone broth company. They make their bone broth with bones from grass-fed cows, and they slowly simmer those those bones to make sure that they can extract as much collagen as possible. I love how convenient Kettle and Fire is because I know how to make bone broth, but quite honestly, I am really busy now, especially as a new mom. I do not have time to slowly simmer grass-fed bones to make bone broth. So I love that Kettle and Fire is a really high quality bone broth that I can just easily grab out of my pantry and put into pretty much any meal to up the overall quality and collagen content of that meal. Kettle and Fire comes in a lot of really cool different flavors. I've talked a lot about their Chipotle beef one in the past, but my all-time favorite is still their original bone or chicken bone broth. It's just because they're so versatile. I use it in making enchilada sauce when I make stews or soups or chilies. It's a really easy, simple way to get high quality collagen into pretty much any of my meals. And Kettle and Fire is super generous and they're offering my community 20% off your bone broth purchase when you use code AUTUMNBAITS at checkout. So make sure you stock up. I'll have the link down description below so you don't miss out. Okay, so is there something actually magical about 100 grams of protein? You've probably seen it everywhere, including my own videos where I talk about how I eat 100 grams of protein per day. The most magical thing about it is it's probably just a lot more than what you're currently getting. It's also an easy number to remember, and you can get a lot of benefits just from having the 100 grams of protein. Although if you want to get even more specific, you could calculate your own protein needs, because studies are finding for those maximal benefits of fat loss while also helping to protect bones, we need about 0.73 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So you would just take your weight in pounds and multiply that by 0.73 to get your total grams of protein for the day. But if you also wanted to just make things easy for yourself and stick to 100 grams, that also totally works. But the key thing is it does have to be from high quality sources, because not all proteins are created equal. Because there are some people who are getting close to that 100 grams of protein, but they aren't seeing the benefits of the protein. And that's because the protein that they're eating, or a lot of it, is really low quality protein. The quality of protein is determined by something called the DIAS score. This just measured how well a protein is actually absorbed as a protein. Simply put, when you're looking to maximize your benefits with eating protein, you want to make sure that the majority of your proteins are coming from these high DIAS score proteins, because those low DIAS score proteins just don't have that same impact and won't cause the same benefit as those higher DIAS proteins. Now, typically all animal-based proteins are going to have a high DIAS score, so you can think of things like eggs or dairy products, or lamb or goat or beef or bison or fish, shellfish, chicken. There are a couple plant-based proteins that do have a higher DIAS score, and that would be like soy-based proteins as well as potato protein, ironically. And especially if you're somebody who likes to track your intake and so you see your macronutrient breakdown, it's really important that you understand this difference between high and low quality proteins, because your typical calorie tracker isn't going to tell you the difference of if those proteins are from all high quality or all low quality, which I have a full blog post listing out the high, medium, and low DIAS proteins. I'll have that link down in the description below. It's a really great resource, especially to make sure that you're prioritizing the proteins that are going to best serve your health and weight loss goals. So if you're putting it all together, you could very well likely just stick to that 100 grams of protein per day and probably receive all of those benefits. Some people will do better with more, and that's where you could get down to the specifics of calculating out your protein needs. But as a beginner, it's a good place to start with that 100 grams of protein, which means you're aiming for about 33 grams of protein per meal. And that's assuming you're having 3 meals per day. By experimenting with this one change alone, you'll probably find that a lot of pieces of your weight loss or wellness puzzle start to come together. But if you want a visual of what roughly 30 grams of protein looks like from different sources, I have a video that you can check out right here. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.